So we're about to mount the body here, and the towel I had on here was full of all the shavings and powder, metal powder from the fretwork. So if the other side's clean, flip it over because you don't want to scratch, especially a nice nitro finished body. The other thing I wanted to point out to you, this has the tilt function in the neck from the back plate. If you were to need a shim, you can just give that a half a turn or so, and that will give you what you need to get your strings or your action to where you need to be. But as you saw, whenever we took this thing apart, did all the measurements, everything was good, so we don't have to do anything there. We just have to do an adjustment to the truss rod, adjust all the string heights back to what they should be. If you remember, we pointed them out that they were kind of cattywampus, probably to compensate from all the gouged frets. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and put the body back on, clean up this bridge a little bit, clean up the body. So one thing here to show you with wood screws, my arm is in the way, I'm sorry. What wood screws, you want to be able to feel the thread pop into its slot. Hear that? When Fender made this, they drilled the hole in the body a hair bit wider than what they do on the neck. So you put the screw in, it'll go all the way down, turn it counterclockwise, and you'll feel it drop right into the thread. That way you're not stripping out the thread of your guitar. That'll also tell you if someone else has been here before, because someone else may not know that. When you put wood screws in, they make their own threads in the wood. And if I remember to record it, there's another trick I will show you when you go ahead to put your final touches on before you do the intonation. You never want to over tighten these. Okay, so the neck is back on. One thing I forgot to add, since he does use this as with the tremolo. My pork chops are done. Okay, since he does use the trim as a dive only, you still want to put lubrication on the contact points. And we use StewMax guitar grease. It doesn't wear off with time, and it appears that whoever put this set it up the last time had some in here, because there's some black in the nut. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit kind of is sloppy. That's part of the final cleanup. Also put underneath the string tree anything that's a point of contact of the string is going to pass over. So that's that. I checked all the electronics, they do work. Would have hated to got the screws or the strings on this and found out that, hey, electronics don't work. Okay, that pork chop was delicious. I don't think I got any on me. Washed up my hands, and we're going to show you how to do locking tuners. On the back there is a wheel that you turn to loosen or tighten. Puts a post up through the middle and grabs the string. No need to wrap the string. So you pull the string tight in the bridge, and I put an angle on the tuners Oh, by the way, there's our string du jour. So anyhow, I put the string in and I put an angle of about this much in. Maybe that helps. And I'll pull this as tight as I can. I'll just tighten that down. As you see, we already have some tension on it, so it's not going to take much to half a turn. But we leave these on because you never know when you have to redo something. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, as you see, none of these strings have a full wrap on them. It's not quite tuned up to pitch, but it will be. But that's basically the premise of tuning a, or not tuning, but stringing a locking tuner that has these thumb wheels on them. Okay, then once we've brought it somewhat up to pitch, you don't want to stretch in the strings. The only ones you really need to stretch in are your wound strings. Do a little bit on the even string or the unwound strings, but not too much because you don't want to snap them. So you see that there's still not even a full wrap. The only one that comes close to a full wrap is the E string, and that's just because it's thin and you can't get enough of a grip on it like you do the thicker strings to lock it down. So makes no sense to go ahead and do intonation or adjust your bridge height or any of that stuff until the guitar is set with tension on the neck. I want to show you this trick, which when these things come down the assembly line, you know, somebody puts the hardware on, somebody puts the pick guard on, neck stop, the neck gets put on, tuners get put on, then it gets strung up, and all that tension is like sucking everything together. So one thing they don't do at the factory, which I always do, this will increase your sustain. And I heard a little bit, but here's the last screw. I got the humidifier running and everything, so, but you'll hear a little creak. Barely. This is a really tight neck pocket. Good job, Fender. So anyhow, what that did is it sucked the neck back into the pocket where it's supposed to live. You will not get it there by just simply screwing the neck on. Once again, you do not want it over tighten. You want it snug. Remember, it's a wood, it's not a bolt on the other side. So by having that done, this joint is tighter. The neck is drawn ever so slightly closer to the body inside, so you get more sustain. Okay, now we're going to let it sit overnight. Okay, welcome back. We've let our American standard Stratocaster sit overnight, and we are between the spec that Fender calls for, which is 10 thousandths, get that, and where it originally was at 6 thousandths. We're at 8 thousandths, and I just ran up and down the fingerboard and there's no fret buzz. However, the string height is still a little high on some frets. So if we go and look at, get the right edge of my measuring machine, we're pretty high. Where Fender wants us to be at 6 thousandths, he had it at 4 thousandths. We're at 6 thousandths, we're at 7 thousandths, we're at 8 thousandths, we're at 8 thousandths, and we're at 8 thousandths. So we need to bring the saddles down some. Got to do that before you do intonation, because when you mess with the string height, you will mess with the string length, which then will cause you to have intonation frustration. And we don't want intonation frustration. Alright, we have it bang on to Fender's specs as far as the neck relief goes, and we're a little low on the strings because he likes low action. There is a little bit of buzz. Here's a pick. But that's because we have the bridge lower. You want low action. You're not going to hear. See, as I get up here, it disappears. Because the neck, even though the relief is right, the string height could go up 1/64 to be at Fender spec. So if he wants to do that, he can do that. But if you're playing through an amp, actually let's play through an amp, not a very good amp, but nonetheless. A little noise maker got for 25 shekels. have not set the intonation yet. I have to go and help my sister go pick up her car. But I'll do that. Actually, let's just see how far off that is. Let's see how bad that is. Notice I haven't trimmed the strings yet. Always check your tuning in the playing position. So I want to slip out from underneath. Okay. E is tuned. E is sharp. A is tuned. A is on. D is tuned. D is on. G is G is on. G is on. Tuned and on. In tune and sharp. So the two E's are really the only thing I have to adjust, I think. Let's go do that again. G's a little sharp. B's a hair sharp. And E is sharp. So 3 strings I got to adjust. Okay. We're back. Everything is set up. The intonation is set up. And we're just adjusting the pickup height. And these are brass, so they're not magnetic. Too much. There we go. Are set, and when you look at them, it looks like the pickups are jacked up in the on the treble side, which is what you want. The thinner the string, the less magnetic pull. You don't want them too close because you don't want the magnetic pull to interfere with your intonation. So this has been sitting for about 2 hours actually. Called the dude and told him that, hey man, your son's guitar is nearly done. I just want to make some final checks. So the strings haven't stopped stretching yet. You always adjust and then check. Adjust, I should say adjust, let set, and check, because you're putting different tensions on the neck, the wood, string. Okay, intonation's good. String height, pickup height is good, and we're ready to go. And it does play well across all the frets, like I showed earlier. And let's just check that one more time. Okay, so that is all good. Last thing I want to check is my relief, which, you know, based on all the other measurements, my 10 should just slide under there. Measure at the 7th fret, and it's about an 8. So it's not really a 10, but like we measured it earlier in this video, he had it, the relief set at about 6. If you do that, you're going to get a lot of buzzing in this area. It did buzz, but he was also, I think, trying to compensate for the massive gouges that were all along the frets. So it is set to Fender specs. If he wants to go lower, by all means, he knows how to do that. The other thing I should point out, let me see if I can get this in the picture. When you're looking at the saddles, see how each saddle is pretty much level. There is an optical illusion because some are further back than the others. You want each screw that's holding up the post, or the saddle, to be the same length. And when you measure across for the to set your string height, that matches your radius. And once again, we talked about how it's a 10-inch radius down here. It graduates right around here up to a 12-inch radius. So the bridge is set for a 12-inch radius. can't set it for this because then you'd have higher strings in the middle, and you don't need that, and it impedes your playing, especially whenever you're playing solos, which, as you see, I have no stretch and I don't play solos. I'm a chord guy and a bass player. So with that, we're going to call this wrapped. Oh, now that final treat of clipping the strings. When you're done, you are then allowed to clip your strings. And don't drop them on the floor, because you are sure enough, if you jam your toe into it, a string laying on the floor, and that hurts. Take these, throw them in the garbage. Final wipe down with a microfiber towel. And we don't put 409, we don't put pledge, we don't put anything on here. If there's anything that doesn't want to come off of the towel, use a little bit of lighter fluid. That'll take it right off and will not hurt the finish. So, be good to each other. Peace. Subscribe. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on YouTube. Well, I guess you would be seeing this on YouTube. Anyhow, see you guys later. Have a good night.